Beastmaster. The new limited job is finally releasing after its long wait on the 8th of September. That being said, from a combination of a live demonstration live letter with Mr. Ozma and a previous live letter demonstration with Yoshi P, we pretty much know how the job works from top to bottom. So, in this video, I will go over everything we know from actions to attack rotation to gear to what Beastmaster is meant to be doing, so you can get right into it from the word go. What is Beastmaster? This job is a limited job, which means that its max level is capped at 50 in this case. You unlock it by having a level 50 job, having completed Portal to Mana and the solo duty that follows, which finishes the 2.0 MSQ, and you need to have Dawntrail on your account. The job starts at level 1 and uses striking gear, so any equipment that monks and samurai can wear, Beastmaster can too. It also uses slaying, strength accessories, and for weapons makes use of one-handed axes, and can make use of any shield that isn't exclusive to Gladiator or Paladin. However, those shields always have intelligence or mind on them, being designed for Black and White Mage, so we can assume Beastmaster gets its own dedicated shields. Beastmaster is a job designed for solo play. Blue Mage, the other limited job, both has the Masked Carnival for solo tasks, but also has a whole selection of achievements and tasks in party content with other Blue Mages. It is expected, at least for the launch of Beastmaster, that it will not have that and will focus on the solo content known as the Crucible of the Unbroken. We will get to this later. Point is, if you like to play solo, this might just be your sauce. Take note that the Beastmaster is designed such that, when it comes to job quests, it gets job quests exactly whenever a new mechanic is introduced to the job, so if anything has changed since this Earlybird guide, do make sure to do those job quests. Now, let's get to the toolkit of the Beastmaster. The filler combo is a basic single-target melee 1-2-3 combo, and there does not appear to be an AoE alternative. The 1-2-3 combo generates 0, 13 and 15 TP gauge respectively, which is the yellow bar on the screen. Attacking an enemy causes your familiar to attack it too, which generates 12 familiar TP gauge roughly every 3 seconds or so. This familiar TP gauge is also yours and is not connected to the specific familiar. You also have access to a Gapcloser, which is an OGCD that does solid AoE damage that holds up to 3 charges, and has a recharge timer of 60 seconds. Next, Battle Horns. From the menu of familiars, you can, and should, pick up to 3 familiars as your first, second and third Battle Horn. The Battle Horn actions are OGCDs with a 1 second cast time, shouldn't matter, that summons forth one of your familiars. This does not have a cooldown when you're not in combat, but if you send away a familiar while in combat, its specific horn goes on a 90-second cooldown. Your familiar can be sent away by summoning a different familiar or by using certain other actions. Note that the cooldown starts when the familiar is sent away. Every familiar has access to Parting Blow, which is a generic AoE attack on a 10-second cooldown, although that isn't super important. Using Parting Blow also sends the familiar away and generates 24 familiar TP. This is meant to be the primary way you finish the use of a specific familiar, and bursting through Parting Blows can leave you in a position where you can't summon anything. 2 other actions boost the power of Parting Blow by 50%. Each familiar has a unique Tempered Release action and a somewhat generic Borrow action, one for each classification, of which there are 8. Whenever a Battle Horn is used, you gain the buff One with Nature, that lasts until it is spent, and it resets the cooldown of both Tempered Release and Borrow. Each of these actions consume One with Nature, so of course, you can only use one of them per familiar summon. Tempered Release performs the familiar's unique ability once, whatever it might be. For example, a Pugil reduces magic damage taken for a while, and massively reduces the duration of paralysis effects. A Slime's Release is an attack with decent power that also super binds the enemy with a bind that is not removed by damage. And the starting pet Kyushi does a 6-hit combo that just does damage. The borrow action instead grants you a buff that gives you access to a new action which replaces the beast mode action that otherwise does nothing. This buff persists permanently as long as you keep that familiar around, but lasts for 90 seconds when it is sent away. Note that this duration is the same as the Battle Horn cooldown, so you can effectively have a specific borrowed action all the time, while still accessing your other familiars without issue. For example, Borrow on a Pugil, a Wavekin, gives you a simple ranged GZD attack that removes buffs from the enemy and generates extra TP when you do. Borrow on a Soulkin, a Coblin for instance, gives you Soul Crush, which is an OGCD attack on a 30-second cooldown that does way more damage and generates a ton of TP if it interrupts a cast. A Beastkin gives Beast Skin, which is a physical damage reduction cooldown vaguely similar to a tank's Rampart, but not really. In essence, out of your 3 familiars, you will probably bring one of them primarily to use Borrow, while the other 2 have access to helpful tempered releases as you cycle through them. In an extended battle, a problem you may run into is that once you have rotated through all 3 familiars, the cooldowns mean you sort of have to go through the same rotation for the rest of the fight. Additionally, using Borrow or Tempered Release gives you Lingering Vantage for a minute, which makes Parting Blow do extra damage. Each familiar has a specific aspect to its auto attacks, which could be an element for magic or a physical type. So for instance, it could be unaspected for magic or water, or it could be piercing for physical. And finally, each familiar has a distinct trick move it can use. This spends at least 100, but up to the full 250 cap on the familiar TP gauge to do linearly increasing damage. This range allows you to focus more on using the attack when you need it rather than exactly when you can, and also gives you more room to set up a combo. For an example, the Pugil's trick, Screwdriver, is a frontal cone attack. The Slime's Digest is a single target attack that heals you for some of the damage. Each trick has a color associated with it, green being Volant, red being Rampant, blue being Durant, and brown being Eldritch. Each beast has access to only one color for their trick. Meanwhile, the Beastmaster has access to an attack for each color. The attack is effectively the same, but it allows you to adjust to whatever your beast offers. These are called Instinctual skills, and of course, the Beastmaster's Instinctual skills spend the whole TP gauge, but at least 100, with a linearly increasing scale up to the full 250, just like the Beast's moves. Whenever either is used, a roughly 8-second timer is started as a buff. If another Instinctual skill is used within those 8 seconds, a combo is initiated, which causes additional follow-up damage and starts a new 8-second timer. If the follow-up attack's color matched the next color clockwise around this odd palette style gauge, then it causes more damage and is considered an intentional combo, which causes either the Moonstalker, purple or dark, have to glow, or the Sunstrider, blue or light, have to glow. From what I can tell, neither of these things do anything beyond going ding ding ding, correct! But the intentional combo deals more damage than just doing whatever combos. Worth noting is that in the presentation, the familiar's trick was an OGCD with a 3-second cooldown, not important, while the Beastmaster's Instinctual skills were weapon skills with a 5-second recast timer that seemed affected by skill speed, but did not appear to be GZDs for some reason. Now, the last thing about this palette-looking gauge is that when you start a combo, the number counter at the bottom of it starts to go up, and each additional combo in the sequence makes the follow-up damage greater, and yes, playing smartly allows you to chain really long combos. Remember, you do get about 8 seconds to chain again after each combo, and for instance, Soul Crush generates a whopping 100 TP if it interrupts something. But there is one more piece to this puzzle. With the exception of the combo starter in a sequence, every follow-up generates notches on the TP gauge. A combo performed by the Master generates yellow notches, while a combo performed by the Beast generates blue notches. So if you were to use Trick into a Master skill, you would gain a yellow notch. If you use a Master skill into Trick, you generate a blue notch. If you somehow performed a Master skill into Trick into a Master skill again, you would generate a blue notch for the combo Trick as well as a yellow notch for the combo Master skill. So minimizing the amount of times you have to start a combo will assist with this massively. The notches have exactly one use. Rally is a 90-second cooldown OGCD that generates 40 TP plus 70 more for each yellow notch, and consumes all of them, maxing out at a full 250 TP if you have all three. Ultimately, as long as you have at least one notch, it gives you enough resources to perform another Master Instinct skill. Rallying Cheer is a 90-second cooldown OGCD that generates 30 familiar TP, plus 70 more for each blue notch, and consumes all of them, maxing out at 240 familiar TP if you have all three. Which typically will end up maxing it out anyway, since the familiar will auto-attack for an extra 12 momentarily. Again, as long as you have one notch, it gives enough resources to perform Trick again immediately. A really simple super combo then, requiring at least a blue notch beforehand, would be to use Trick into Master Skill, Rallying Cheer, into Trick, into Rally, into Master Skill again. But if you could interrupt something in the middle of all that, you could chain it one further, and with 5 attacks in the chain, if you really meter out all these timers, that's already a solid 32 seconds to find other ways to generate extra TP to do more. Which leads to probably what some of you have been clamoring for the most. How do you capture the beasties? The familiar list counts a total of 50 beasts as of right now, and while out and about, you can make use of a rotation of 3 at any time. To capture a beast, you first use Gauge, that pink swirly action, for the game to tell you whether the beast you're looking at is capturable at all. Then you soften them up a bit with your axe, and then you use Catch, the green action with the animal in it, to capture the beast. And after that GCD is successful, you can defeat the beast completely with your axe to properly capture it, permanently unlocking it in your arsenal. The gameplay loop. Typically, you should probably expect to always have a borrowed action stocked from one of your 3 beasts, and then the other 2 beasts are chosen for their tempered release instead. The beasts might also be chosen for the shape or style of their trick attack, but by the way, you can probably expect to spend around 45 seconds or so with each beast in an extended fight per cycle. Before combat, you bring out the Borrow familiar, borrow your action, and then you could switch to a different beast you want to open with for the free cooldown, and open with a blast of tempered release and an early parting blow. Alternatively, you could also use the Borrow familiar with just the parting blow. Once the fight is underway, you make use of the tempered releases of the familiars you have as you progress through, and parting blow as needed, rotating through all 3, and presumably, you want the borrowed action of only one, but hey, sometimes you might need from several depending on the situation. And once you've built up enough TP, you can start blasting off methodically to chain the combo as long as you can, or quickly if you know the fight will end quickly anyway. One example that was shown off of a handy combo of actions that just emerges as a result of the options given is to borrow the ranged attack from a Wavekin Pugil and then make use of the Super Bind from a Slime to lock an enemy down while shooting at it from afar. Another somewhat funny side bit is also that the Quelling Waves move borrowed from the Pugil generates marginally more TP per second than your regular 1-2-3 combo, just as it is. 10 per GZD instead of 28 over 3 GZDs. Now, what is the Beastmaster supposed to be doing as its endgame content? After all, a limited job can't run daily roulettes as normal, and being capped at level 50, it's not like you have many there anyway, right? The Crucible of the Unbroken. The primary content for the Beastmaster is this special solo content. It becomes accessible from as early as level 30 and was shown as level 30 in the demonstration. Given that it locked us out of certain actions, Rallying Cheer notably, I'm going to assume that there is a level 50 setting to it too. Hopefully? But you are able to level your Beastmaster this way too, so you don't need to do any other content once you hit level 30. Aside from capturing more beasts, of course. Additionally, when you run this content with your beasts, they gain XP and levels too as a sort of roguelite experience, making future runs a bit easier. The Crucible also has multiple difficulty settings, so you can make sure it stays tough. In the Crucible, your familiars have more distinct stat lines defining the specialty of each beast, and certain classifications have different advantages and disadvantages. An example given in the showcase itself was that Ashkins, such as the slime, come out the box with worse overall stats than other classifications, but can consume significantly more feed for extra boosts to compensate, sort of making them late-game powerhouses. Other classifications with higher base stats cannot eat as much. The gameplay sees you go through a game board that looks somewhat vaguely like something out of Slay the Spire, and each room has something in it you can tell before you enter. Before you start a run, you have to pick a certain number of beasts to pack for the ride. In the example, you could bring 10, but of course at most 3 for each battle itself. In the Crucible, your familiars can take damage and can die, locking you out of using them. Additionally, health regen is entirely disabled in the Crucible, so any damage you take, you have to manually deal with, and that also applies to your familiars. When it comes to aggro management, you have 2 bonus actions, one that causes your familiar to provoke the current target and puts cover on you for long enough that the pet can effectively maintain it as long as you want. You also get an action that causes you to provoke the target, remove the cover effect, and gives you sort of like tank levels of enmity generation. You can effectively control who takes the damage at any point this way. As you progress, you will also find Crucible items, one-time use tools that can heal you or your beasts, deal massive damage to enemies, or block attacks or something else. These items can be placed directly on your hotbars for easy access. Can we have this for deep dungeons too? You will also find gear that function effectively like artifacts or something in Slay the Spire, in that it gives you permanent bonuses and effects for the rest of the run. You can sell these artifacts at a shop later in the run if you need the tokens, run-specific currency, to buy something more important. And you can also find feed, which gives one beast, which may be classification specific, an enormous boost. For example, a piece of gear might boost your crit rate by 15%, which is pretty solid, but pales next to a beast getting a straight 20% physical damage boost. However, beasts can, as mentioned, only eat so much, and all of their feed buffs go away when they rest, which is their primary way to recover HP. And yes, the battles and bosses in the Crucible have various mechanics to deal with. One fight example included a mob that needed to be interrupted regularly, Soul Crush. Another featured a mob that did a regular tank buster with a poison debuff side effect, so you'd need to mitigate physical damage, and or give yourself a buff that reduces poison damage, or as was shown in the demonstration, use a Crucible item that makes you automatically block the next few attacks completely. Finally, if one of your beasts hits the max level, which is 25, it unlocks an alternative look to it, like a shiny form you can choose to use. Notably, the Crucible of the Unbroken has a score and leaderboard, and runs on a seasonal system a bit similar to PvP seasons or the PvP series rewards. The top players of each season are given a special mount. Exactly how this works in greater detail is uncertain, but that is the main point of it. So, to be super clear, at its peak, Beastmaster is a solo playing job meant to play this rather intense roguelite game mode. You can still progress it simply by playing the easiest difficulty. The important part is having fun with it. Now, I do wonder if skill speed, or even spell speed Lamau, will be any good on Beastmaster, or if you even have a choice once you go in the Crucible. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this job in the comments. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Twitch or Ko-Fi, links in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, originally Blue Mage was also added at the tail end of Stormblood with a level cap of 50 that was further expanded upon around early mid Shadowbringers. In the early days, there was no ethereal mimicry to choose your role. The only healing spell was White Wind, and if you died, too bad if you didn't have a real healer.